I'm going to be sharing with you 5 different ways to becoming an RN. Maybe you are wanting to become a registered nurse, but you're not exactly sure which way is the best way for you to take to get there. So I will be breaking down for you these 5 different most common ways to become an RN. I will talk about some of the pros, some of the cons, and some of the requirements, prerequisites that you need to get into these different programs. Hopefully it will give you a good idea of what are the most common ways to becoming a registered nurse and also which track might be the best for you to take personally. Alright, so the first way to becoming an RN that I'll talk about today is becoming a licensed practical nurse and then going to taking a bridge program to become a registered nurse. So once you finish an LPN program, which is about a year long, then you would sit for what's called the NCLEX PN, so the Practical Nursing NCLEX. And once you pass that, then you would be licensed as a licensed practical nurse and you'd be able to begin working full time. So then once you've done that, you can do a bridge program to becoming a registered nurse. And so there's some different options in there, but one of the most common ones is called the LPN to ADN, which is the associate's degree in nursing. And most of these programs, LPN to ADN, last about 1 to 2 years, and you can do that while you're working. And so that's kind of the perk of doing this route to nursing, is that if you really want to get into the workforce very quickly and you're on a limited budget, the LPN to RN might be the right fit for you. Now the cons with taking this track would just be that overall you probably would spend a little bit more time on your education than if you did an associate's degree in nursing or a bachelor's degree in nursing, which is what we'll talk about next. So the second way to becoming an RN that is actually one of the most common routes to take is known as the associate's degree in nursing, or the ADN degree. Commonly the ADN degree is 2 years long, and it is one of the least expensive options to becoming an RN, and it's also relatively short. The requirements to getting into an associate's degree of nursing does vary by state, but it tends to be very similar from state to state. So first of all, you're usually required to take what is called the TEAS test, and that's basically just a standardized test that is used to assess where you're at in several different areas to see how ready you are for nursing school. So the TEAS test is usually a requirement just depending on what state you're in. Then there are also other requirements, usually anatomy and physiology, microbiology, and general psychology. Sometimes also developmental psychology is required as well. Usually they required basic English writing courses and a general math course as well. So this will vary from school to school, but those are the general requirements. You're also required to have finished your high school degree or your GED. Now, just a side note here that most hospitals now are starting to move towards having their nurses get a bachelor's degree in nursing, and so if you do choose to go in the ADN route, then you will likely want to be thinking about when in the future you might continue and finish your bachelor's degree. Okay, so we're on to the third way to becoming an RN, and that is probably the most common way that most people go, and it's the BSN, or the bachelor's degree in nursing. So in a bachelor's degree of nursing, it's usually a 4-year degree, and it has 2 years of prerequisite courses and then 2 years which are the nursing specific classes and then clinicals. So at the end of both the associate's degree in nursing and the bachelor's degree of nursing, so the ADN and the BSN, then you can sit for the NCLEX RN exam. And if you pass that exam, then you will be a registered nurse and you will be able to work as a registered nurse in a clinic or a hospital or in just a variety of different settings. So if you have the time and the finances and the flexibility to do a bachelor's degree, that may be the way to go for you. But if you're more limited on time and you want to get into the workforce more quickly, or maybe finances are more tight, then the associate's degree might be a good option for you. The fourth way to becoming an RN that we'll look at is the fast track bachelor's degree. An ABSN is geared towards people who already have a previous bachelor's degree and who want to change careers or get into nursing. An ABSN is usually 11 to 18 months in length. So that is one of the huge perks of doing an ABSN. The prerequisites for an ABSN tend to be more rigorous as well, and they have a much lengthier prerequisite list than many of the other ADN or BSN programs. So for example, would require you to have chemistry, microbiology, anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, nutrition, organic chemistry, a couple psychology courses, usually English writing, sometimes a research methods class. There's just a variety of classes that might be required. Also, a lot of accelerated bachelor's programs require that you do the GRE before applying, and they often also have a GPA requirement that's quite high, and so that tends to be like a 3.5 or above. It just depends on the program that you're looking at, and you would have to look at the specific program in your state and see what they are asking for their ABSN. I have spoken to several friends who have done this accelerated program, and they say that the pros are that it definitely prepares you very well. You get tons of clinical hours. It's very focused, very rigorous. They have told me that some of the cons are the expense of the program. They tend to be usually about 60 to 70,000, possibly more depending on the school that you're going to, and so it is expensive, and it also is very time consuming. And so if you have a very busy schedule, this might not be the right program for you, but if you're really able to take a year to a year and a half to really focus in, give it your all, this might also be the option for you. So finally, the fifth way we're going to be looking at to becoming an RN is probably the least common one, and this is the Direct Entry Master of Nursing degree. Now this would be appropriate for somebody who already has a bachelor's degree in a non-nursing area. An accelerated MSN degree has a lot of the similar requirements to the accelerated bachelor's degree. They tend to be extremely rigorous, quite expensive, and they are a little bit longer than the accelerated bachelor's because you're getting a BSN and an MSN together at the same time. So usually these programs are about 2 to 3 years in length, and they also are very competitive. So they require that you have a very high GPA, usually above a 3.0. They often require that you take the GRE beforehand. They do have quite a list of prerequisite classes that need to be finished before you begin the program. And those prerequisites are pretty similar also to what the accelerated bachelor's degree would require of you. So a lot of sciences like chemistry, anatomy, physiology, microbiology. A lot of times they would require statistics, research methods, English writing. There's several other classes that they would likely require, just depending on what school you would apply to. So to quickly wrap up about the fast track programs, there's the accelerated bachelor's degree or the ABSN, and then the accelerated master's degree. Those programs are for people who already have a previous bachelor's degree but who want to get into the nursing field. They are highly competitive, they are more expensive, but they also are finished in a much faster time, in about 12 to 18 months for the ABSN and about 2 to 3 years for the accelerated MSN. They are very competitive and rigorous, and so a lot of times these programs recommend that you don't work while you're completing them, so that is something to keep in mind. But if you know that you have the resources, the finances, and the time to be able to do one of these programs, and you also have a previous bachelor's degree, this might be the right track for you. Alright, so I know that was a lot of information today, but if you have any comments or questions, you can go ahead and leave those below. Also, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to my channel for more videos similar to this one.